Hello, everyone in Ret, Canada. My name is David Beard, and I'm from the professor of rhetoric at the University of Minnesota, Duluth, and I'm here with exciting stories to tell. My presentation today is called Saying Yes, How a Couple of Sad Things Became Happier Things and Shaped a Research Project. I'm going to give you this overview where we're going to talk about all the cool things you see on the right over there. We're going to talk about 3 sad moments in my life that helped me build some connections, leading me to what I'm working on lately, and hopefully offering a few points for future rhetoricians. So the first sad moment was the death of my colleague and mentor, Jim Ani. He was a communication studies professor at Texas A&M. When he passed away, one of the things I helped organize was an issue of argumentation and advocacy in his honor. I co-edited with my colleague, David Gore. It was a beautiful project, let me connect with lots of folks. A second sad moment was the death of my colleague Rex Veeder. Rex was an English rhetorician who focused on Coleridge and composition, and he had 13 cardiac events within the space of a year, and it made him rethink his energies towards publishing articles that very few people read, and he founded instead a journal of medical humanities and narrative as medicine. Eventually, Rex passed along. Some fellow people like me, influenced by him, got together and talked about whether we could keep the journal alive. And I picked up co-editorship of that journal in an ongoing way. A couple of Ret Canada voices have appeared in that journal. The third sad moment, Heather is not dead. Hope that was moderately funny. Heather is my co-editor on this project, which is a book published with Rutledge, but she came to me because the person she was intending to work on the book with passed on. And Roger, her partner in scholarship and in life, said, David Beard appears to be good at editing things. Maybe you could work with him. And so there was a kind of cascading waterfall effect of saying yes to projects which came out of moments of sadness, which helped me say yes to this project, which was a joyful moment to work with a friend. That project led me to make a whole bunch of connections with the Institute on the Environment on the Twin Cities campus of the University of Minnesota, where I became a fellow, which led me to become a member of something called the Rural Collective. Some people are interested in environmental issues because they overlap with rural issues. And as a faculty member in an outstate campus, I'm often called rural. 86,000 people in my town, but it's called rural. And through networks in there, I got involved with a rural emergency services improvements working group. Again, kind of connections and always saying yes to connections. What is it that people working in the medical school on rural EMS or that in the Institute on the Environment find attractive about working with a rhetorician? Number one, we're hyper aware of our contexts. We understand context to be often much bigger and spongier than people in other disciplines do, and it makes us open to lots of possibilities in our work. We're very good at problem formulation. We're also super good at salience construction. Why is this problem important in the first place? As a result of courses in argumentation, if you've had them, we're often very good at arguing for a solution or for testing a solution, which is often what's necessary in a grant proposal. And lastly, most of us are pretty good at communication, which is managing the humans and resources towards that solution. That's what my colleagues in other disciplines really find useful about working with a rhetorician. I thought they would just want a proofreader, someone who knows writing, but in fact, it goes much deeper than that. So what am I working on lately as a result of all of these twists and turns? The broad umbrella I'm calling rural communication. There's a lot of research and communication studies on rural communication and especially rural media, often in developing nations, very little of it in the United States. The rural-urban split in the United States is one of our greatest political fragmentations, so I'm attempting to kind of dip my toes in there, talking about rural environmental communication, talking about rural health communication, and then in practical ways, deploying what I learned to rhetorical approaches to rural health policy. I have a ton of different things I can talk about there, but I'll just show you one. This is a map of non-emergency transit problems in healthcare services in rural Minnesota. And as you can tell, the darker the squares in the map, the shorter the travel time in the case of the map on the right, to clinics which will serve people without health insurance. They're called federally qualified health clinics. So clinics which serve the poor. And as you can tell, in the further north you get, the fewer and fewer resources people have to access healthcare anywhere near them, right? If the space the county or district identified is white, it's more than 60 minutes to get to a federally qualified clinic. And can you imagine having to travel 60 minutes to more than 60 minutes one way to see your doctor? Can you imagine, in the case of one of them, the federally qualified clinic in Ely, Minnesota, it's only open Thursday nights from 4:30 to 6:30, having to travel more than an hour each way to get there, and have a 2-hour window when everyone in the region needs to see that doctor. What's cool about working on this project is I'm using my rhetorical brain set in terms of problem formulation. One of the questions I've been asking my colleagues is the problem that it's harder to get patients to the doctor, or are there reasonably ways for us to get the providers closer to the patients, especially for non-emergency care? Are there ways using community paramedics where people would have to travel less far because the expertise for low-level maintenance needs, often by older folks, can be in the community among them? There's questions of salience, right? Is this only of interest to the rural poor? Because if it is, it's dead on arrival when it comes to policymaking. How can we make this problem salient to the urban lawmakers who drive policy? Often that means pointing out that quality of life in rural communities has an impact on quality of life in urban communities, whether it's because those urban people are visitors to our natural resources, or whether it's because there's an interconnectedness in other economic ways. And then, because again, if you've got a rhetoric degree, you know something about communication. I'm very much interested in how we bring economic and healthcare leaders, policymakers, and community advocates together to talk. I have many colleagues. This map was prepared by scholars in transportation and geography who can give me great maps. Can they turn that map into the communication and advocacy necessary for action? Dun, dun, dun. So, caveats to imagining this is a way to construct a research project. In my tenure portfolio, the best and most inspiring and most haunting letter was from Randy Harris, asking me what my contribution will be after tenure, when I was less inclined to scramble and I could focus on my work. On my worst days, I look back at how I got here and I was clearly scrambling. Don't even ask me how I got named to the religious studies faculty on the Twin Cities campus. The story starts by working with former Red Canada member Kevin Brooks, taps Giamani on the shoulder for some stuff he wrote about his Jewish heritage being an impact on his scholar, and ends with conversations with Kyle Gerber and writing about Marshall McLuhan. I do think, though, I might have an answer developing for Randy if you're in there in the audience. Hi there. A decade of accidents have led me toward what might look like a monograph on rural communication, which is where I think I'm headed. But above and beyond that, I want those of you in early career graduate school still to maybe not just learn from the accidents and the sadnesses and the serendipity that got me here. I recognize I lucked into a nice tenure track position, and it's getting harder and harder for younger generations to find it. But I want you to remember a larger point. Unlike your colleagues in history and literature or other humanities fields, you have, as rhetoric scholars, special powers that open up research opportunities for you, even open up non-academic career opportunities for you, valuable if you're bound by geography, for example. Those skills in problem formulation, salience construction, managing people and resources to get something done. But people in other disciplines don't learn those things, and you did. I have a second point to finish with. I want to make sure that the older scholars among us do not die anytime soon, because I surely don't need any more opportunities. And I thank you for your time, and I hope to learn more from you. Thanks.